We're live. We're live. We're live. We're live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Clubhouse. So if you're in this conversation, welcome to Witchy Wednesday. I am Kaisi, also known as Reverend Valerie Love, and I am not Queen of the Witches. As I was interviewed on OT Winoko in Ghana, and he said, Queen of the Witches. I said, no, 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 OT Winoko. I'm not Queen of the Witches. I am not anything other than a fellow Christian witch with you. I am with you. I'm not in charge of nothing. I'm not even in charge of myself. I gave myself to spirit. So I'm here in service to humanity so that we can understand that Christ and magic are one. That's it and that's all. And if you can get with that, I left Christianity, but I didn't throw out Christ. I didn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You can still use Christ. You can still use the angels. You can still use your incredible symbology. Christianity gave us the most incredible, not the most, some of the most incredible iconography and symbology that can absolutely be used in music, in magic. It's been used in magic for thousands of years. Yes, thousands of years it's been used in magic. And Christ himself was arrested for sorcery, which a lot of Christians don't know that. Oh, let me thank you. My chimes are saying that it is time. There's 1 minute to high time. Welcome. This is Witchy Wednesday. We're on YouTube, Christian Witches YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to the Christian Witches YouTube channel for all things Christian Witches, I got some incredible interviews coming up. Subscribe to the Christian Witches YouTube channel. Follow on the Christian Witches Facebook fan page, which just went over 10,000 Christian witches. Wow. Wowie, 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 because it blows me away. All kinds of things, new moon, full moon, and what happened to Adam and Eve after they left the garden. That's the current series that's going on the Christian Witches podcast. So today we're going to talk about hell. Now, there are two reasons why we're talking about hell today, and anyone who would like to come up on stage, pardon me, and join this conversation, please do. I'm coming to you from Cozumel, Mexico. I'm so happy to be with you today. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have my notes here because I've done extensive research on hell. I've done extensive research on hell. I love doing research on things like this, and here's why. For two main reasons why we're in the Christian Witches family talking about hell. One is because the number one thing I have heard from Christian witches, and the number one fear I had when I was making my move out the broom closet was judgment. Fear of judgment, some kind of fear of retribution that God is going to get you, or put you in hell, or somehow you're going to displease God if you practice magic and witchcraft. Because doesn't it say in the Bible, Reverend Val, doesn't it say it right there? Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Don't consult anybody who does magical arts and sciences like divination. Oh, we know all the scriptures. We know all the scriptures. But we never went deeper than just reading at surface level. And that's what this channel and that's what this information and really this move of spirit is about. Is number one, relieving you and releasing you from fear of judgment and retribution because you're practicing magic. Now that's been ingrained in us. And all we're saying is let it go. That judgment has been ingrained in us since we were growing up in the church. It's been ingrained in the consciousness even of America and a lot of Christian countries. It's been ingrained in us that magic and Jesus don't go together. And that is simply not so. So that's the first reason we're talking about this, so that you can practice your magic that's strumming in your blood. You can practice your magic, your craft, your spell crafting, all of it. You can practice it from a place of being clear, clean, free of judgment. And I'm going to prove to you today where hell came from and that you have nothing to concern yourself with. The second reason we're talking about this is because Christian witches, because number one, we're unclear. Number one, we have a fear of retribution, fear of judgment based on the story we received. The second thing that is the big problem with Christian witches is that we easily can be punked by the Christians around us in our communities because we don't know the truth. We don't really know. And we want to arm everyone in this community with truth. Because when you're armed with truth, no one comes for you. Because when you know the Bible, the origins of the Bible, not only the 66 books of the canon, the pseudepigrapha, the apocrypha, when you know the origins of heaven and hell, when you know history, archaeology, when you know Bible scholarly works, when you understand and you are well read and you are well researched, no one comes for you anymore. They're like, oh, don't mess with her. Why him or her or they? Why? Because you have studied to show thyself approved. But if you don't know any of these things, if you don't know about the Apocrypha, if you don't know about the origins of hell, if you don't know about any of it, people can easily punk you because you're going to hell. And you'll be like, oh my God, maybe I am going to hell. Or you won't have the right response to be able to wield the word as a double-edged sword to help people understand, not to fight. I don't fight over God. What a ridiculous notion. To study to show thyself approved so that you can stand on your square, that you're a master of the magical arts and sciences and of Christianity, and you understand Christianity's origins, and you understand what we're going to talk about today. This is about opening eyes. This is not about making people wrong. We're leaving that alone. Christians can't make witches wrong, and witches can't make Christians wrong. You're following your soul. That's why we got 8 billion different paths to source, because there's 8 billion different people, and people are not supposed to all do it the same way. Now let's get into it about hell. The first thing I want you to understand in this conversation, everything that I'm going to say on this Witchy Wednesday, first thing I want you to understand is this. If you don't research this for yourself, you will forever be dependent upon other people to tell you what it is, rather than coming to your own well meditated upon, well understood conclusions based on truth, not what people told us. So what I'm going to give you a charge, family, and that is to study it for yourself, research it for yourself. Don't believe what I'm telling you, because I'm doing my research for me so that I can understand. The second thing I want to say to you is that people, just because they didn't tell you the truth, doesn't mean they lied to you. I'm going to say that again. Our parents, pastors, they loved us. All the people who told us the Christian story, they loved us. That's why a lot of witches are really kind of fucked up in the head about Christianity. They're like, oh my God, the Christians, they killed us. They came after us. Oh, Christians are horrible. Not really. I don't agree with that stance either. Why? Because people did that, and they're very crazy sometimes. People did that, not the Bible, not Christ, and not God. People did that. I didn't see Jesus hanging nobody. I didn't see Jesus burning nobody at the stake. I heard Jesus saying, accept everyone. So for me to strive to have Christ consciousness, for me, is the highest ideal. Now, for some people, Allah is the highest ideal. For other people, Buddha. For other people, Krishna. Beautiful. Whatever it is for you, if it's working for you, work it. Okay? This is a community accepting of all people. And nobody's right, nobody's wrong. So if you don't do this research for yourself, you're going to forever be dependent upon what other people say. Now, let's go into hell. Where did hell come from? Now, before we can really go into where hell came from, I'm going to pull up all of my notes here that I have from my research. And I've already done a Witchy Wednesday segment in the Forbidden Knowledge series about the origins of hell. So some of it you will hear in that video, and now we're going to go further in this video. First, let's go all the way back to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We understand. We've read it a million times. We read all the book of Genesis. We've read Genesis chapter 1. We've read Genesis chapter 2. What did it say in Genesis? In the very beginning, it said, if you eat of the tree, you will positively die. It also said, From dust you are, and to dust you will return. You are in existence in this life, and then you are non-existent. It said nothing about hell. Read Genesis to Malachi, the entire Old Testament. You will not find hell. You will not find hell. You will not find hell. You will not find the devil. There is no word for the devil in the Hebrew Bible. There is no word for devil in the Hebrew Bible. Now, already I know that's going to just rustle some feathers because, like, what? The devil was in Genesis. No, the devil was not in Genesis. That was a later addition. It didn't say the devil, it said the serpent. Read it clearly. It said the serpent. It did not say the devil. Okay, it said the serpent. Now, later in Revelation, the devil and the serpent got conflated. That was a much later conflation. So let's just go with the very beginning. You can use critical thinking skills. You can use research. You can look at Bible scholars. And please, when you listen to Bible scholars, please find out where they're coming from. Because if you're listening to a Bible scholar who is deeply Christian, fundamentalist Christian, they're going to give you what's called apologetics. What is apologetics? They're going to make everything fit into the Christian story. Everything, no matter what, they're going to make everything fit into the Christian story. They're not going to give you anything new, anything out of they're not going to color outside the lines when I just go way outside the lines because I want to look at all of it. So if we go to the very beginning, nowhere does the creator, now the creator of the universe may or may not be the being that is spoken of in Genesis 1:1, because it says Elohim, let us, in plural, Elohim, gods. There was a plurality going on for creation, but we're not going to go into that part right here and right now. We're looking at the Hebrew Bible, which is Genesis to Malachi, and plus some other books that didn't make it into the Hebrew canon, into the official Bible canon of 66 books, which was made up in thousands of years after purportedly these events took place. So if we take the Bible just at face value, you've already read in Genesis, God said, if you say that this is God, God said, from dust you are, and to dust you will return. It's very clear. He said, you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, not the tree of good and evil, tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it also says that the day you eat from it, you will die. Not you're burning hell because you're an evil person and you're going to go down and you're going to burn forever. It didn't say that. So from the very beginning, we are starting to understand that hell was not at the beginning. If in the Christian story, because we're examining the Christian story now, whether you believe this story or don't believe this story, for me, it's not a literal factual story. It's more of an allegory. It's metaphor. It's mystical. It's symbolic. It's astrological. It has many, 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 many layers of meaning, the Bible, many layers of meaning. But most people read it for face value. So if you just go with the Bible, because that's the text in question here, when people say hell came from the Bible, you want to look again because it didn't. Okay. So we understand Hebrew Bible, and please go look it up for yourself. Don't believe a random lady on YouTube and Facebook and Clubhouse. Nowhere in the Hebrew Bible is hell spoken of. Well, then what was it? Here is, and ask any Jewish people, have a conversation with any Hebrew people, they will tell you, every Jewish person I've ever talked to have told me the same thing. They don't have a concept of the devil. Ha-Satan, yes. Devil, no. Witches, no concept of the devil. And we'll tell you when the devil was invented. The devil was invented somewhere around a couple of 100 years, 200-300 before Christ. The devil is probably only a little over 2,000 years old. But you've lived your whole life with the devil, so you think the devil is eternal. You think he's as old as God, and he's not. He's an invention, the devil. In the Hebrew Bible, there is Satan, also known as Ha-Satan, the adversary or opponent. And if you study Kabbalah, and if you study Jewish mysticism is Kabbalah, and if you even study the Hebrew Bible, Jewish people would tell you that they don't have a concept of this devil, evil running around being mean to everybody, that Ha-Satan is actually on God's council. God has a council in heaven, sort of like a celestial council of beings, and Ha-Satan, or the adversary, or the opponent, is part of the council. He's part of the heavenly council. Now, when we look at Job, what did Ha-Satan say to God about Job? And I'm going to show you how the devil and hell, they kind of come together, right? Because supposedly the devil is the prince of hell, right? That's what they say. Well, Job was, as we know, serving God and very loyal and faithful, and we're having the council and look at Job. And Ha-Satan said, yeah, Job is faithful, but what would happen if he didn't have all that stuff? Because he's just so blessed. What would happen if he didn't have all that stuff? And we know the story. Source said, okay, well, Ha-Satan, you could be right. Go right ahead, see what happens. And so it was decided in heaven that now Ha-Satan would have full capability to now come into the life of Job and wreak havoc, basically, kill his kids, take all his stuff, make him sick, and make his wife turn on him and call him names. And he's just wretched now. And he was so good, and now he's so wretched. Everybody knows the story of Job. And then he passed all the tests, and then because he had some friends that came, and they were like looking at him like, man, you must have did something wrong, because your life couldn't have went from way up here, way down here that fast. And what's wrong? And then finally, he had a little conversation with one of his friends, and he came to Jesus. Well, Jesus wasn't there yet, but the saying, you have come to Jesus, mean you have an awakening. And he realized, wait a minute, maybe things are not as I think they are. Okay. And so he passed all the tests, and we know he got all the kids back. And you can tell that this is a metaphorical story, because he had 10 sons and 10 daughters, and then he got again 10 sons and 10 daughters. Who has 20 kids and has exactly 10 sons and 10 daughters? Please show me somebody that has 10 kids and has exactly 5 kids and five sons and 5 daughters. It's very unusual. That's how you can tell that these things are metaphors. They have hidden meanings, and they also have hidden wake-up points that say, family, this can't be real, because Adam and Eve had 63 children. They had Cain, Abel. Cain was firstborn, Abel, and then because Cain killed Abel, they replaced Abel with Seth. And then after Seth, so those are 3 boys right in a row, right? And then they had 60 more kids, 30 sons and 30 daughters. How you gonna have 30 sons and 30 daughters? I mean, the first 3 were boys. So if you just use critical thinking skills, you would have to say, well, this is not literal. This means something more than what I'm thinking, right? Okay, please put in the chat. I know that we might have some comments or whatever. Show me some comments on Facebook and YouTube. Talk to us, okay? So Ha-Satan is the opponent, the adversary. Not evil. He ain't the opponent of God. He's the weightlifter in the gym. Look it up. Don't believe me. Please don't believe me, because I'm not looking for believers, nor am I looking for followers. I seek to stand as a master, and I seek for other masters to stand in truth. So we have the invention of the devils, maybe a little over 2,000 years ago, but supposedly the events of Adam and Eve happened even supposedly 6,000 years ago, right? Thousands of years before that. So we can see that there was no devil in the Garden of Eden. There was no hell in the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, you had 2 choices. Either you lived or you died. If you lived, you were walking around on the earth with the breath of life in you. There was no concept of the soul leaving you. There was the pneuma, or in other words, the breath of life. What is called in some traditions prana, what is called in other traditions chi, what is called in other traditions ruach, what is called in other traditions, the traditions that I'm from, ashe in Africa. Pure divine life force energy. When God breathed into the man, he became a living soul. That's what it said. It didn't say he has a living soul. So if we go to the Jewish understanding, the Hebrew cosmology, there is no separate soul from the body that is going to leave when the body expires and have an extra terrestrial or extra earth or extra body or metaphysical existence apart from the body. In the Jewish understanding, Hebrew understanding, you got two choices. I'm going to make this super clear. Either you are in the land of the living, walking around with us with a ruach, the life force of God pulsing through you, which is animating your being, or you are dead, which means you are in the ground. They put you in the ground and you are in what is called Sheol, where all people go. There was no distinction. Lovely people, poor people, happy people, dastardly people, wretched people. There was no distinction. You either here in the land of the living or you are in Sheol. What was Sheol? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses called it the common grave of all mankind. Sheol was simply the grave, the pit down in the earth. They bore out a hole, put you in it, cover you up. You're done. You're done. You're gone. That was what was in the consciousness of Hebrew people. Now, can you please tell me where does hell come in from that? You can't find it. That's why you don't see hell anywhere in the Hebrew Bible. Look for it, find it and show it to us. You can't find it. Okay, let's go further. So because Hebrew people were, of course, swirled around with many other people over many, many, many eons, many generations, right? You have Hebrew people, you have Greek people. As the years go by, and we know that there were exiled periods during Israel. There was the destruction of the temple. There was the second temple destroyed. There was exile of the 10-tribe northern kingdom, the 2-tribe southern kingdom. We know that the Babylonians came through. We know that the Assyrians came through. We know that the Persians took over that part of the world for a long stretch of time. So when do we get to the idea of hell? We get to the idea of hell. You start to get to the idea of hell during Daniel, and Daniel has a vision. This is not reality. When people have visions, this is not reality. John went into a revelation on the Isle of Patmos, right, where he was in prison. Not John the Baptist, the other John. John was imprisoned on an island called Patmos, right? And when he was on the island of Patmos, Christ came to him, and Christ had gone and resurrected. And Christ came to him and gave him the revelation, the book of Revelation, which reads like something you would see in an ayahuasca journey. I was wondering if he was taking shrooms or ayahuasca or LSD or some plant medicines, which there were many plant medicines. Of course, back in the day, plants have been here forever. Well, it sounds like something that you would see in an ayahuasca experience. A dragon with 7 heads. You see, crystals. You see what looks like extraterrestrials. All of that is in the book of Revelation. If you read the book of Revelation, a city and all these things in the city and gold and all these different things, and a woman riding a wild beast and all of that. This sounds like something that you would see in a ayahuasca journey. No, at no point in time do you come back from a vision and think that that is reality. At no point does anyone, if you're in an LSD trip, if you're in a mushrooms experience, if you're in an ayahuasca experience, if you're in any experience that is giving you visions, at no point do you come back and think that vision is reality. That's not how visions work. They're in other dimensions. They're teaching you something by the visual form because they understand that if we can see a vision, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So Daniel had a revelation or a vision. His vision was similar to Dante. Dante had a vision as well, right? Now, Dante did not invent the idea of hell. It was already kind of floating around by the time Dante had his vision. It was already floating around. And it started to creep in around the time of Daniel, when Daniel has this vision of sort of this heavenly celestial realm and a lower realm, like after you die. When did this started to come in? Well, according to some Bible scholars, this began to seep in during the apocalyptic period. So what does apocalyptic mean? Well, before the apocalyptic period, people weren't too happy with the whole you die and it's over. They weren't happy with that. Why? Because you could be mean in this life. And when you die, you go into the same place my mama goes to. And my mama is beautiful and loving and kind. And she always feeds the whole neighborhood. Like everybody's going to the same place. Solomon told you that. Everybody goes to the same place. Everybody's going down to Sheol, into the ground, into the earth, going into a pit. From dust you are, to dust you return. It says it over and over and over. Just read the Hebrew Bible. It says it over and over and over. It does not say you going down, your soul is going to be snatched out of your body, and then we're going to take your soul and we're going to torment it forever in some fiery place, or we're going to give it everlasting bliss in some lovely heavenly place. It's non-existent. And I promise you, most pastors know this. They would never tell you. They know it. They went to theology school. They know this. This is common knowledge among everyone except Christians, it would appear. And I don't understand how Christians can remain ignorant about their own religion. That's unacceptable. Okay, so, and it's unacceptable if you're going to be a well-studied, well-worn witch, magical being, warlock, magical practitioner. You've got to know history. You've got to know archaeology. You've got to know psychology. You've got to know alchemy. You've got to know the sciences, more magical arts and sciences. All of the profoundly, really incredible magicians and witches that I know, they are very well learned. These people got books beyond what you would believe. So you cannot just study your thing and think you know. You don't, because there's many other things. You know your thing. And sadly, with Christians, they don't even know their thing, because they will not, by and large, not all Christians, I don't want to blanket anyone. The Christians who are the fundies, the fundamental ones, the ones who want to argue with you, the ones who want to tell you you're going to hell for being a witch or being magical, these are the ones whom, if they're not ready to accept what we're talking about, don't even have this conversation with them. Just ask them, what do you want to have for lunch? Especially if they're friends and family of yours. There's friends and family of mine I would never have these conversations with, because I already know where the conversation is going. And we're not here to argue over God, right? We're not doing that. If you want to know, the way will be shown. So let's go back to this apocalyptic idea. People didn't like that everybody going to the same place. Because you're mean and I'm not. I should get some reward for that. And you should get some punishment. So you begin to see with the Greeks, and where did the Greeks get a lot of their stuff from? The Egyptians. With the Greek and in Egyptian way of seeing things, the cosmology, there definitely was a soul. There were several parts of the being. In some Egyptian schools, there were 7 parts of your being: the ba, the ka, the ego, the psyche. There were the Egyptians were quite complex in their cosmology, as we know, and they had a very multidimensional view of what constructed you as a being. And in the Golden Dawn, they teach that it was 7 aspects of you, not just 2, a body and a soul. And according to Hebrew, it was 1. It was what we see right here, animated by Ruach, or God, God's life force, the breath of life. That divine, it's not just breathing, it's not just air. It's divine unction, it's divine energy. Is animating us, which I like that. I agree with that. I pretty much agree with a lot of things. I'm not here to fight with things. Yet in the Egyptian cosmology, there were 7 aspects of you. In the Greek cosmology, There was the body and the soul, and they could be separated, that the body could die and the soul could go on. So, do you see how this is starting to meld? And do you see how these things are starting to congeal? Remember, no beliefs are constant over thousands upon thousands of years. None. If you go back to Christians in the year 1000, they're different from the Christians in the year 1500, different from the Christians in the year 2000. No beliefs are constant over time. And you will see this if you look beyond your lifespan. And you will see how some of the ideas that we hold are fairly new. So, the apocalyptic answer to the fact that we can't just die and that's it, and you're just in the ground now, you're in Sheol. We need to have some kind of system of you're going to get rewarded for all these beautiful things that you're doing on the planet, because we want to get people to do some good deeds on the planet and wonderful things. And you're going to be punished if you did some bad things. So you see that happening around the time of Daniel. You also see it in an older iteration, actually in Homer's Odyssey. There is some twinge or a strand of something is going to happen after you die, and your soul is going to go someplace. And either it's going to be good or bad for you. Let's fast forward to Jesus. So this idea had only been around for maybe 200 or 300 years before Jesus. The idea, see, when Jesus came on the planet, it was a fairly new idea that your soul was going to go somewhere after you died. And what was also happening in around that same time is the prince of darkness, the devil, that he was created in his current iteration. These are inventions. These are human inventions. If you do not believe that human, we invented all of it. That's the bottom line of hell and the devil. We invented all of it. We drank the Kool-Aid. We espoused the Kool-Aid. We tell other people about it. And we're insistent on seeing it that way. We made it all up. We made it, every bit of it. And science and archaeology and Bible scholarship and history can prove it to us that we made it all up, because it can show us what these people believe, we have the writings. We have Dead Sea Scrolls. We have the Nag Hammadi Library. We can go and research them all. As a matter of fact, you can pull up online. You can pull up right now the pseudepigrapha, and you can read these things for yourself. So there has never been a better time to live, because you have access to all this information. Now, let's go further. So by the time Jesus came onto the planet, there had only been the hell and the devil concept for about 200 or 300 years. Now that Jesus was on the planet, Jesus is talking. They consider Jesus, Bible scholars consider Jesus and his message to be apocalyptic in nature. What does that mean? What does apocalyptic mean? It means, there is going to be some kind of destruction, and God's going to do it. And God's going to come, and if you're not in the kingdom of heaven, where are you? You're dead. Jesus never said anything about hell. Now, people do misquote Jesus, which is why you probably want to get the book called Misquoting Jesus, written by Bart Ehrman. And I really love listening to Bart Ehrman. He was a staunch Christian, and now he is an atheist. Yet I do love his perspective. I love his Bible scholarship. I love that he's an incredible teacher. And so I include his research and everything that I'm looking at. I actually like talking to atheists a lot, because atheists don't fall for things. They don't believe things. They like proof. They like evidence. And I like talking to hardcore people like that. I really do, because they will really put something through the paces. Some people tend to fantasies, and they'll just believe what you tell them in church. An atheist is not going to do that. So that's why I like talking to atheists. They're going to look to punch holes in things. They're going to look to see where things line up and where they don't. So Jesus comes on the planet. He is apocalyptic. He's saying the kingdom of heaven is coming. He's saying God is going to take action. He's saying that there's going to be some kind of conflagration coming, and that there's going to be a destruction of those who are not, see the word destruction, of those who are not on board, right? Do good, love God, love your neighbor, share your food, take care of people. That's how you are in the kingdom of heaven. That's how scholars take his message. I take Jesus' message differently. The way I take Christ's message is I take Christ's message as a personal ethos to love your neighbor as yourself. He said there's only two laws: love God, source, with your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, love your neighbor as yourself. If everybody lived that, we wouldn't have no wars or no hatred, no bigotry, nothing on the planet, because everyone would love source themselves deep within themselves, and you would love everyone else. And that would be the end of it. And the love would work everything out. Well, when Jesus was on the planet, there were a couple of very interesting things that he said that would make people think that he's talking about hell. What is one of the things he said? One of the things he said was, "Oh my goodness, it's better for you to cut your arm, throw it into cut off your hand, if it makes you sin, because if you enter into heaven, even with a hand cut off, dismembered, basically, better for that to happen to you than for you to be cast whole into Gehenna." Here's another very tricky word, Gehenna, in the Bible. What does it mean? It means Valley of Hinnom. And what is the Valley of Hinnom? Good question. You would have to research that. Well, one rabbi put forth an idea that the Valley of Hinnom was this big burning trash heap outside of Jerusalem where people just poured things, threw things all the time, is where they burned all the trash. That didn't stand up to archaeology because we haven't found it yet. If it did exist, nobody found it yet. And we probably would have found it by now. I'm not saying that it's a no, it's probably unlikely. What's more likely is that you would have to know what was in the consciousness of the people that Jesus was talking to. In the consciousness of the people Jesus was talking to, they knew the Valley of Hinnom. The Valley of Hinnom was where people did child sacrifices. Everybody knew that at the time of Jesus. And they knew that that was like a crime against God and nature itself. Like one of the worst things you could do is sacrifice your children in the Valley of Hinnom, where they were doing these child sacrifices to other gods, right? Israel would have known about that very well. And this is where they did the child sacrifices of burning people, right? It possibly could have also been where they tossed bodies of people who did not get a right and proper burial. And you know, all the people of the ancient world, including us right now, we have all our burial rights. And if your body is just tossed somewhere to burn or whatever, that's called ignoble. You are not being honored. It's probably going to have some kind of effect on your afterlife, according to the prevailing thought scheme. Just like in Egypt, it was very important what happened to your body after you die. We got the whole crypt with the boat representing Ra's boat going across, the sun. So you need a boat to carry you. Provisions, all of the organs were carefully extracted, including the brain. The Egyptians knew how to extract the brain from the skull by going up through the nasal cavity and drawing the brain out and putting that into a canister. Each of the organs were all carefully retrieved from the body, and each of them were put into their own canisters around the person who was in the crypt. And of course, on the walls of almost all of the Egyptian monarchs, the ones that were really, somebody that had the big crypts, were writings from the book of going forth by day, also known as the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Well, they call it the Book of the Dead because it was written in all the crypts, right? But the Egyptians didn't call it the Book of the Dead. We call it the Book of the Dead because we walk in a crypt and it's with dead people. So we say, well, this is a book for dead people. That's not what they called it. They called it the Book of Coming Forth by Light, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day. That's what they called it. So when you look at these writings, and they were identical, all these different writings, there are many crypts. So obviously the Egyptians knew you were going to be doing a lot in your afterlife. There was a lot of provisions you required. There were a lot of things that you needed to be prepared for. And you even need the spells. These were somewhat of spells to be sure of your passing. Of course, your heart's going to be weighed on the scales of Ma'at. And if your she had a feather on one side and your heart on the other side. And if your heart was heavier than a feather, you're gonna have a problem. The big crocodile god is gonna push like crocodile-headed god is this big beast that was standing there when you were standing on your tribunal, right? So after you die, there was a tribunal. There were 42 judges representing the 42 laws of Ma'at, and he was Ma'at, and he was Osiris overseeing the whole thing. Osiris is the head honcho of the underground. And here was my aunt, and she was going to test you and see, did you forgive? Did you love? Were you peaceful? Were you following the 42 principles or 42 laws of my aunt? And of course, if your heart was lighter than a feather, you could pass through into this beautiful place with reeds and water, and it was just beautiful paradise. And if you did not pass, this big beast that was there would just consume you, and therefore you're gone, right? No torture. You're just gone. You're just dead. So you want to understand that if you look at these different cosmologies, you will recognize which ones kind of weaved into Christianity and which ones we kind of kept and which ones we liked, and how this is a weaving of a story together over eons and eons and eons. And you can see when maybe the Greeks might have inserted this part, or maybe this part came from the Egyptians, and maybe this part came from the Persians, and you can see it unfold over eons. I love that. And then you have what we have today. You have hell and heaven, completely human inventions, completely made up. Find out for yourself. Now, there are a couple of things to read, and that is the Apocalypse of Peter, where he had his vision of like hell and whatnot. And in one of these apocalypse stories is very fascinating. They had people in hell for things that were really not that hellish. So, in one of these visions of hell that people had, it wasn't just Dante, other people had it too. So, Daniel had it, Peter had it, Dante had it. Different people had these visions. It was a vision to tell you, don't be dastardly, like be kind. Well, in this particular one of these visions, it said that women were in there. Why? Because they braided their hair to seduce men. Okay, that gets you in hell. You braided your hair to seduce men. That gets you in hell. So, in this particular vision, however you got into hell was going to be your torture in hell. So, if you got into hell because you had braided your hair to seduce men, you were hanging by your hair. The women only could have this torture, right? The women would be hanging by their hair over the flames. If you were one of the men that was seduced by the women, you were hanging by another body part. Yes, hanging by your wiener over. I mean, isn't this hellacious? Like, this is horrible. But God is love. Does God is love and this go together? It doesn't go together for me. God made this up. That's what they're trying to tell us. God made this up. And if you were seduced by the woman with the hair, now you're going to hang by your wiener forever over a fire. People that lied and were very destructive with their tongue, they were hanging by their tongue over the flames of fire forever. Can I see that these are visions and that these are metaphors? Do you really, really think? Now, I don't know what's going to happen to us when we die. I don't pretend to know. I don't know. I do know that all of this is made up and it's easy to prove. It's very provable that we made this shit up. What I do know is that there is a continuity of life. I've experienced that with ancestors. I've experienced that there is that there are multidimensional planes of consciousness that are far beyond the physical. I've experienced all of that, and you have too if you're hearing this conversation. The floor is open. Let's listen to what some people want to say. What say you, family? What say you, family? This is a lot. Fire Fairy, you're on stage in Clubhouse. You want to share on Clubhouse? You want to speak with us? Colton, are you in the room? Can you speak?
So, I always felt that the truth, but like hell is kind of believing in a lie is always worse than the truth, anyways. But I always felt that if God is the God of eternal life, then why does this God have to destroy? You know? And then with what we're taught in school, nothing is neither created nor destroyed. So I always thought that if you were a bad person in one life and you're eternal, then you take your ratchetness with you. So then you'd probably put yourself, into just as much trouble as you had the life before. But I never, well, that's not true. I did believe in an infernal hell before. And it made me because I'm gay. And so I remember being 5 in church, already believing I was going to burn in hell forever. And my existence, was bad. And then I grew up hurting myself and doing drugs. I feel that somewhat all of that stemmed from, the lie of an infernal hell. And when I got older as an adult and discovered that I am not my body, I am my spirit, and I realized that, we're everlasting, and that some people, hey, don't do nothing ratchet because then you're going to take it with you to your next life. It would have made so much more sense to me than don't do nothing ratchet or else you're going to be tormented forever on the other side. That's what I have to share about that. But you just kind of blew my mind, with all that information. Reverend Love, thank you.
And as you were speaking, a tear almost came to my eyes. How despicable is it to make people think that who they are is inherently evil? That has got to be, it happened to witches and to gay people. That has got to be one of the most horrific methods of shaming. It's psychological torture and abuse. That's what it is. It is psychological torture and abuse. Bill, I want to address your question. He says, one of many verses about hell in the Hebrew Bible, and many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. The very beginning of the verse tells you what we're talking about. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth, they're not burning. It says, some to us, they shall awake everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. It does not say that they're going to burn forever. This is what the church told you it means. And Daniel, as we spoke of, was the first one really in the Bible to start talking in a very apocalyptic way, where people were kind of wanting something to happen to people that were bad in this life, right? Daniel, Phil, you got to do some more research. And you've got to do research, Phil, beyond what the Christians say. But if you want to stay in the Christian camp, that's okay. I'm offering that if you want to really get to what's really going on, you will have to go a lot farther and a lot deeper. You'll have to ask a lot more questions. Because Christians, I love Christians. I love everybody. The whole reason we're having these conversations is because Christians believe what they've been told. I did. I believed it. You heard Fireberry did. He believed it. Oh my goodness, then that must be what it is. We believed what we were told. And what we were told, like I'm telling you, it doesn't mean that they lied to you. It means they told you what they knew. And I am telling you that if you want to find out the true origins of hell, but only if you really want to. Now, if you don't really want to and you like what you believe, and it suits you to believe in hell, and that God made a hell to torment people in forever for something they did for 70 or 80 years, if you like that, keep believing it. No one's going to take that away from you. No one. You can believe it as long as you like. One of the things that Christians don't understand is that you yourself are bound to that idea. Other people are not. Christians keep thinking that their beliefs bind you. It's so bizarre. It's like the toddler who says, we've all seen our toddler kids do this, or many of us, right, have seen a toddler kid do this, maybe not all. They cover their eyes and then they say, you can't see me. Have you ever seen a toddler do that? They cover their eyes and they say, you can't see me. Why are they saying that? Because they can't see you. And we're looking at the title like, okay, they'll learn that it doesn't work that way. That's how you look at Christians when they want to spout to you hell and what they believe and what they've been taught. And the Bible says this, and the scripture says this, and the Bible says that. Okay. Do you understand that you are now operating under a self sustained prison, and that other people who have freed themselves from the prison are not in the prison with you anymore? But Christians want to put other people in the prison with them. I don't. I'm not laughing at people, at not at all. I'm laughing at the concept that what I believe is binding on someone else. What I believe is binding on a Hindu person. That's what Christians want to tell you. All Hindu people are going to hell. Why? They ain't Christian. Because according to the Christian story, if you didn't accept Jesus as your Lord Savior, you went to hell. Now, Jesus never said that. And if you look at everything Jesus said, Jesus never spoke about hell. Now, we do have the book Misquoting Jesus, which would be good for us to read. I'm going to read it as well. That there are many places in the Bible where words have been put into Jesus' mouth that Jesus actually did not say. That's all proven too. Because why? We have the current English Bible that translates everything that says Gehenna into hell. Your English Bible, do you understand your English Bible came from? Let's just add this little piece in there. Just look at your Bible. Not your Bible. It's my Bible too. I love reading the Bible. Here is what people do not understand about the Bible. Nothing Jesus said was written down for at least 40, 50 years until after Jesus was gone. The first recorded writings of anything Jesus said happened 60, 65, 70 AD. Now, if we didn't have recordings, if we had YouTube, that would be very helpful. We could just look at Jesus right now and see exactly what he said. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Clubhouse. We didn't have anything. You're recording everything I say. You know exactly what I'm saying. We don't know anything that Jesus really said. Why? Because none of it was written down until 40 years after the man was dead. Just start there. Wow. Just use critical thinking skills and say, I can't be reading what's accurate, because we've all played the game telephone, and you already know that you hear something and you hear something and you hear something. This means that somebody was there that passed it to somebody else. Everything was an oral tradition. So you obviously are not getting the exact things he said, and you can tell you're not getting the exact things that happened, because if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they say different things about the same story. One will say it happened this way. One will say it happened that way. Look in it. It tells you different stories. I don't take the differences so much as a denial of the whole thing. I take the differences as, well, in 30, 40 years went by before anybody wrote any of this down. So I can understand that maybe some of this stuff maybe a little of the details got lost in translation, but I still know he helped a lot of people. I mean, I still got the bottom line message of it. But you can tell these are not words of Jesus. I don't think nobody on the planet now has the real words of Jesus, because the oldest thing we have was written 30, 40 years after the man died. How's it going to be exactly what he said? If you think that, you can think that if you want to. I would offer that there's another way of looking at it. Then, after people did start writing it down, we had a mass cleanup. A couple of 100 years after people had this scroll and this scroll and this scroll, and all these scrolls were circulating. We did not have the printing press yet. How did you get a copy? You took it to a scribe who sat at a candle and wrote the whole thing out. Come on now, people, are you going to say that there was nothing in there that got turned around? You try it right now. Try writing the Bible right now. And make no mistake. First of all, by candlelight. And using no modern devices. Using a fucking quill that you dip in some ink. Oh, come on, people. I mean, this is not hard to put together. I mean, this is common sense. Okay, well, we probably don't have what really happened. And what are you still getting from it? You're still getting from it the spirit of what happened. That's why this is so awesome. You still have the spirit of what happened. It's still telling you something important happened in this book. I mean, billions of people love this book. Why? Because something important happened and it helped us and it made us think, let me love myself and love my neighbor and love God. That's beautiful. Let me take care of people. Right. But are you really going to be dogmatic about something that you don't even know? How can you be? You're dogmatic about something you don't know. None of us know. None of us fucking know. So after they had all the scrolls floating around, scribes translating it, writing it, then after it being written over and over and over, then they began the translation. Now, first of all, writing it in the original language, Hebrew Aramaic, right? Because Christ spoke Aramaic. So writing it in Aramaic is one thing. In the people, in the time that we were in, is one thing. Translating it is another. And then translating it from Aramaic into Greek, and then Greek into Latin, and then Latin into English. Do you think that some things occurred in the translation? You know, just think about it. Now, this is how I'm going to end this. As Phil, you brought up a good point. Just because that's the earliest copy we have doesn't mean that that's when it was first written down. You're absolutely right. The question I have for you is, are you willing to open your mind? And that's for all of us. Are you willing to see things differently? That's all. Are you willing? If you're not, that's okay too. But we're not going to fight over it. All right, Colton, who's next? Welcome.
Sister Val, you know I got a lot to say about this.
Oh, come with it, Colton. Come on.
So, first thing, you know, like the other speaker that was on here, honey, I've been told I'm going to hell for everything. I'm told I'm going to hell because I'm gay for one, a witch for two, 3 because I drink, 4 because, you know, I used to smoke, 5 because I used to be Pentecostal, and Pentecostals are just horrible people to other denominations, because you can't have the Pentecostals because, you know, they got the Holy Ghost and all that. Baptist over here.
Wait a minute, Colton. You got me over here cracking up because that's already 5 reasons you're going to hell. This is crazy. Okay, continue.
The Baptists tell you, well, having the Holy Spirit is different than what they say because you don't shout and speak in tongues like that. They did it like that whenever they first got the Spirit in the Bible. It doesn't happen like that today. And then the Pentecostals are saying Baptists are wrong because they don't have it.
Wow.
So, you know, that's all a big thing as well. So it ain't what people tell you you're going to hell for. They need to be telling you what you're going to heaven for. Okay. That's my point number 1.
Wait a minute. Preach. I love it. Come on.
Because, you know, and as witches, you know, we're doomed evidently because, you know, we work with the devil. So, you know. And, you know, it's the whole
Wait a minute, Colton. We work with a devil that we don't even believe in. We don't even have a devil in our cosmology, but supposedly that's who we're married to. Okay.
Exactly. And, you know, as the anniversary of the Salem witch trials is coming up in a couple months, I've been thinking a lot about it lately. And when you were speaking, I was thinking a lot about it. They were hung, and people throughout history have been hung and burned and crushed and all that. We're still getting the same treatment. It's not really physically happening, but we are being mentally and verbally and spiritually hung and harassed and slaughtered and martyred by the thousands, witches and practicing people. You know, so the thing is, people think they're so righteous and telling you you're going to hell, when in actuality, if they took the words that they believed, you know, not to wear polycotton blends, not to judge, not to engage in alcohol, not to have premarital sex, not to share the house with your wife if it's her time of the month, because she is fit unclean. She has to even sleep out in the yard, can't even sleep in the same house as you until the end of her flow. You know, they like to pick and choose on what they're going to hell for, or what they're going to heaven for, but they'll tell us everything we're going to hell for. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. But you tell a lot of Christians that in the same chapter where it says thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, it also says that if your kids are disobedient, take them to the the elders, and if they don't listen to the elders, take them outside the city and stone them. That's what it said. And I don't think nobody's stoning no children. It also says that you're not supposed to eat seafood. You're not supposed to eat no shrimp, no clam, no shellfish. But I do see many Christians. I was with a whole bunch of Christians, Baptist Christians, that was at the crab feast. No problem. I don't even think they know it's in the Bible.
It's not literal. How do you read this whole story and think, oh, this makes perfect sense? I'm going to believe this for the next 80 years of my life, and I'm going to heaven, and everything's going to be great. And anybody else that disagrees is dead wrong. It doesn't add up.
It does not add up. And you know what really got me about hell, which I knew hell could not be a possibility. I completely threw it out in the trash, even though I didn't grow up with it, but I heard people talk about it all the time. It's in the air, right? It's in the air if you grow up in the United States, because the United States is mostly a Christian country, probably one of the last strongholds of Christianity in the world, because even though Americans ain't being Christians, they're saying they're Christians because they sleeping and drinking and boozing and sleeping with everybody they feel like it, just like everybody else on the planet. But they're the ones that's claiming the hardest to be Christians. Well, right? Well, this whole idea of hell, when I had my first child, I knew it couldn't be so, because I held that baby in my arms and I asked myself as a parent, if you ask yourself this as a parent, would there be anything that this person could do that I could hold this child's pinky finger over a fire for 3 seconds? Now there's your punishment. Oh, I couldn't do it. I knew it was a lie, because God, it says, according to the Bible, right? It says God is a better parent than you. There's no way your loving creator is going to put you over a fire forever for something you did for 70 years or something you did for one day. A loving creator did not come up with that. Humans in their twisted minds did. Period.
Yep. Like, why would a father, like a heavenly father, do that? Why would he even create you in the first place if he's going to destroy you? Because I'm with these people. Look, if I ain't got to do it, I ain't going to. So why would he create you in the first place just to destroy you? Because you won't worship him and bow down and do everything he says. That's not God I want to serve. I don't want to serve a totalitarian dictatorship God. You know, the Bible clearly says, ye are gods. And when you come to that realization that, oh, I can make shit in my own life happen. I ain't got to go to the priest. I don't have to go and sacrifice a lamb to the high priest. I don't have to go to church and beg the preacher to pray over me. I can make that happen in my own life. It is so free. And you were talking about the Ruach. And a lot of my heritage is Ashkenazi Jew. And, you know, we do celebrate some of the Sabbaths and things of that, and like Shabbat and things of that nature. Not on a religious thing. It's just kind of a tradition. So it's not a religious thing. And you were talking about the Ruach. The word Ruach means spirit, as you said. And the way that, if you're talking about like the Holy Spirit, it's Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. And whenever I'm in my own personal prayer, I'm praying with the Ruach HaKodesh. And it's just so filling. It's like filling you with a big blast of air.
I feel it. I feel it. And from your Jewish heritage, did y'all have any talk of the devil or hell or any of that?
They didn't really practice as much as I do. After I got out of the whole Christian cult and the whole big thing, I started really focusing and researching more and more and more. They did some of the little stuff, but they were mostly Christian. So I have embraced a large part of my Jewish heritage while they put it aside to be Christians. And yes, absolutely, everything was the devil. Don't bring Uno cards in the house, that's the devil. Don't bring in a board game, that's the devil. That's witchcraft. Don't do that. You damn sure don't say pregnant in the house, because that's a sin. You don't talk about gay people, that's wrong. You don't buy Nikes because they support gays. You don't shop at Walmart, they support the gays. You don't eat at KFC, they support gays. So, everything is about the devil. Christians talk more about the devil than they talk about Jesus, because everything's the devil. But in their own world, nothing's about Christ, hardly.
You're absolutely right about that, because when I went on a missions trip to Kenya. I travel the world right now. I'm coming to you from Cozumel, Mexico. I went on a missions trip to Kenya it was 19 of us, Christians. It was a Christian missions trip from a Christian church to do good in Africa. It's beautiful. And we took over a lot of supplies and clothing and all that. I mean, it was beautiful. It was all these suitcases that we have of things that we can get from like the dollar store and give to people that may not have them. In some of them, they go every year. Some of them, you give a child in one of those villages a pen, they have the same pen the following year when you go back. Well, when I was on this trip, something very bizarre was happening. Now, you know me, I'm spiritual, I'm just loving everybody. I'm around Jewish people, I love it. I'm around Native American people in the Sweat Lodge, I love it. I'm around a Peruvian shaman, I love it. I'm around a Colombian shaman, we're doing plant medicine, I love it. I'm in a Temescal, I'm in a Hindu temple in India, I love it. I'm in a Balinese temple in India, in Bali, I love it. I'm in a mosque praying with the women on one side and men on the other side, I love it. I never met a holy house I didn't love. I mean, I love it all. Well, because to me, it's all the same thing. It's just different ways of expressing source. Well, I was with the Christians and we were doing all of these, I guess you could call them like sessions. Like, they had an evangelist come in, the kind of evangelist that'd be hitting you and then people fall out and stuff like that. I mean, it's beautiful. Well, I was with the Christians for like 10 days in Kenya. Every day, kid you not, I heard probably everyone with us at least 3 times a day say that something was the devil that they were looking at. Oh my God, don't get that jewelry from them, because you see how they got marks on them. That ain't nothing but the devil. Oh my goodness, look at that. Oh no, don't do that. That ain't nothing but the devil. We were in Kenya. Everything was the devil. And then I would look at it. I was like, oh, maybe it's a tattoo, or maybe that ain't nothing but the devil. Or maybe it's jewelry that was handcrafted. Well, that ain't nothing but the devil. Oh, that's witchcraft. And somebody would have like, I don't know, some garb. That's the devil. They even told me, because I was dressed in white, you better stop all that Buddha stuff. I was like, wow, what just happened? Like, devil came out of every one of them. Devil came out of their mouth every day more than God. I was like, well, this is really a devil cult. This is really a devil cult.
What they were saying.
Say that again.
They became what they were saying with the power of spirit. They were supposed to be using the power of spirit for love and healing. But instead, when they were standing in the power of spirit, they were saying, it was like they were casting a spell.
Ashe. And I got to see it with my own eyes, because I wasn't really around Christian people like that, in that way, like living, eating, sleeping with them every day, being with them all day, every day, sleeping in, in the rooms. We would be together. We would have our rooms like with a roommate, and the next door somebody was in. We were on safari. We were doing everything together. And after day 3, I was like, this is a devil cult, because they talk more about the devil than they do God or Jesus. It's really interesting. No, I was not with ignorant Christians, Phil. I was with normal Christians. These were beautiful people. These were beautiful people, very lovely people. They were on a mission trip to Kenya. I wouldn't call anyone ignorant. I wouldn't call them, ignorant. I wouldn't call them anything. I would say this is this is a symptom of a deeper issue, belief that there's an evil devil running around pulling people's strings. That's what it's just a symptom. It's a symptom of a deeper issue. And you got to really ask yourself, if there's a devil, in China, they have this saying that I love. If your God is not God enough, your God ain't God. Your God has an evil twin, then your God is not God enough. How can your God have an evil twin? How can your God, I'm going to ask you a question, because this is what I think to myself. How can the creator of the universe have anything that would in any way threaten it? The creator of the whole universe. That this thing so threatened the creator of the universe that there has to be some kind of war showdown where God is going to show this thing just who's boss. Do you think that would happen with any of my 3 kids or my 3 grandkids? Like, they don't know who the fuck I am? I don't get it. I don't get it. You can call me crazy. I don't get it. I don't get how you can be the creator of the whole universe, not just this planet, all the planets, all the universes everywhere. You're the creator of everything, everything, everything. Isn't that what it says? Creator of everything. All the galaxies that we haven't even discovered yet. This huge cosmos. And one of your kids is a problem kid. And they're such the problem kid that they got to cause so much ruckus for you and everybody else. And so much that you have to assert your authority to prove to this upstart that you're really God. The story doesn't make sense. Add it up. It don't add up. The story, if you take this as a literal story, it will not add up. Now, if you take this as metaphor and you understand that it has deeper meaning, it has symbolism, and that people made up the devil, well, what was going on before we had the devil? Before we had the devil, people had many gods. Many gods. People still have many gods. Some people, alcohol is their God. Some people, bed is their God. Some people, sex is their God. You still have people that have many gods, because whatever you give your devotion to is a God for you. So these people were not mean people. They were not. I mean, no one's going to pay money to go to another country to lend aid to people who are disadvantaged and they're not kind and loving and compassionate. I do not doubt the loving kindness and compassion of anyone. I don't, because I kind of believe that, not kind of believe, I do believe that most people are very good at heart. We have some bad eggs. I believe the bad eggs are the minority. I believe that most people have a good heart. They want to do what's right. They want happiness for their family. They don't want no bad blood. They want to be peaceful and happy. And I got to tell you something. It was very interesting, the conversation with the Christians. They didn't sound ignorant. They sounded like they were speaking from their theology and their cosmology, which is a cosmology of good and evil. When I dropped the duality of the good and evil and I came into oneness, source, like how could there be an opposite to source? Everything came from source. Then a lot of this stuff dropped out of my system. No longer was I afraid of this, that, or the other, because duality belongs in the 3rd dimension, not in the dimensions beyond. I've got to say this too, is that this is a good question too, Brian. How can the creator of the universe be open and willing to destroy his creation? I don't know. I wouldn't destroy none of my kids. And anyone who's a parent and anyone who's not a parent, if you're a grandparent, if you're a grandparent, you probably were a parent, right? If you're an aunt, if you're an uncle and you have nieces, you have nephews, even if you never had children of your own, you have friends who've had children. There's nothing that would come into your mind to destroy those children for any reason. It wouldn't come into your mind. What would come into your mind is to protect those children and to take care of the children and have fun with them and feed them and give them little surprises. My niece is going to love this. I'm going to get this for her. That's what we do with the kids. It doesn't even enter our mind to destroy a child. Why would it be that God can destroy God's children when one of the chief commands or one of the greatest crimes against God was child sacrifice? But you're saying God told us not to do child sacrifice, but God is very willing to do child sacrifice. I sacrifice billions of them, ain't doing what I want them to do. I'm going to sacrifice them all. You're saying, think about it. God forbid child sacrifice. Yeah, God's willing to sacrifice his children, burn us all. In the very same thing that he said don't do. It doesn't add up. And for the Christians who say, oh, but the Old Testament, that was the old law. Jesus came, he freed us from the law. Beautiful. Then if that's the case, why are you still quoting Deuteronomy every time you talk to a witch? You got to pick one. You're still quoting Deuteronomy. Either you live in Deuteronomy or you're not. You got to really ask yourself some questions. Christians, this story does not fit together. Yet, if you love it and you want to stay in it, beautiful. Nobody's telling you to come out of it. I certainly will not. I say have your own journey. Who else? Colton, continue.
So I have one thing to say, then I'm going to go because I am here at work. If you take the fact that everything the devil is evil and negative, not even the devil, but negativity, there's more Christians out there that got more devil than they do any of the Christ teaching. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for speaking up, Colton. I appreciate you. I love you and I appreciate you. Wow. And Fire Fairy as well, and all our magical beings. I love you. I appreciate you. This has been Witchy Wednesday. It's Forbidden Knowledge on Witchy Wednesday. And this Forbidden Knowledge show is not called Forbidden Knowledge because people can't know the information. And it's not Forbidden Knowledge because the information is being hidden from people. You can go and research all of it yourself. It's called Forbidden Knowledge because people don't want to know it. That's it for today. Make sure you go to christianwitches.com and come with us to Christian Witches Convention, which is coming up Memorial Day weekend in New Orleans. That's going to be up soon. Registration for the Christian Witches Convention 2022. We haven't had the Christian Witches Convention since 2019, just before the global meditation of the planet that we had in 2020 and 2021. And now that all of that is coming to a conclusion, we will be having the Christian Witches Convention, and the Christian Witches Convention will be in New Orleans Memorial Day weekend. Also, we have the 222 activation event. I'm going to put the 222 activation event also up on the Christian Witches website because it is on the Valerie Love website. But in the meantime, hop over to Christian Witches, read the blog, listen to the podcast, support, leave comments on the vids. Get engaged. We love you. Have a beautiful day. Peace. Love you, family. Love you. Love you. Keep it magical. Love you.